section. And don't forget, interactive. Let us, just ask them questions, because there's a lot of good content in here, and there's going to be a lot of changes and a lot of things happening that you're going to want to know about. So ask the pertinent questions to be able to get those things for yourself. And along that line, you may actually get a gift card for this particular session. Also, make sure you take some time and do the survey for today. We want to know how things are going. Want to know how these guys are doing as presenters, and if we really want to ask them back next time or not. We'll see. But I think with that, guys, it's all yours.
Thanks, guys, for joining today. I know it's kind of hard to join on a 3:34 Eastern on a Friday, right before a good weekend potential from there. But I goes Richard with his emojis. So today we're going to be talking about what's new with Teams calling meetings and devices. My name is Eric Marsi. I'm a Microsoft MVP and a Microsoft UC consultant here at Innovation. Richard, MVP as well, Director of Technology Development at T2M. We're going to go through just a kind of a quick introduction to both Richard and myself. And then we'll look at what's new with Teams meetings, Teams Premium, other miscellaneous licensing changes, devices, calling, and management. And then Q&As at the end. But again, during the meeting, feel free to raise your hand, say, hey, I want to ask a question. Don't wait till the end. Feel free to ask questions while we go through the presentation. So myself, I'm from Barberton, Ohio, the two-time Microsoft MVP. Have that giant list of certifications there. Giant, I guess you could say. Some of my hobbies involve reverse engineering, security research, electronic skiing and four-wheeling, and then my socials are available there in the bottom left. For Richard,
Yeah, hey everyone. Richard Brynteson, or DJ, or whatever you call me by this week. Minneapolis, Minnesota, local. I am actually sitting at the beautiful campus of the University of Minnesota as we speak. Also a Teams MVP, or whatever the actual title is. And find me online, Twitter, LinkedIn, World Wide Web, whatever. And I'll give a double hand wave for how exciting that was. All right.
Awesome. All right. Step one, what's new with meetings?
All right. So funny enough, the first thing is mesh avatars. So I thought I would just go ahead and lead off the charge with my fancy avatar. The cool thing about the avatars is not only, is it a replacement for those who are camera shy, and you can do all sorts of fun and crazy things, including my personal favorite. I don't know why one would act like they've been flushed down a toilet, but darn it, I've got that emotion. So I can do it. So, but it allows you to interact, right? If you've never, it's better than being in a room with a bunch of people that frankly, right, don't have their cameras turned on. And the avatars, as you can see, as I talk, the mouth moves, you have the ability to do that. And if you're using it inside of like your together mode, as you can see here, you can go ahead and your avatar shows up in together mode as well. So it's a pretty interesting experience. It's kind of a 1.0 experience. There'll be more stuff coming down the road, but I'll be honest, I wasn't sure if I was going to love it or not, but I probably use this in almost every meeting now, which is kind of funny. And the other thing is you do get to have 3 avatars, so you can switch them on and off. So you can have, your professional one, your unprofessional one, and your silly one, and all that kind of good stuff.
I'll do a demo on that real quick. Hey, I'm myself. I have no hair. Hey, look,
right.
Now I have hair.
And with just a click of a button, you can solve. Yeah. So it's fairly interesting. Obviously, a lot of this will be able to be controlled via policies and all that kind of fun stuff. But it's a great opportunity to interact with individuals.
I do want to make note on as well to this. If you are part of the TAP program, you will have access to mesh avatars for free for 1 year. So anybody that is part of TAP, you will have this for free.
All right. That'll lead into another subject later on,
but
we'll get there. We'll get there in a moment. Excel Live. Have you used this yet, Eric?
No.
Because I find
I've
this.
only ever used PowerPoint Live, but then again, here I am in a Teams meeting and I'm sharing my screen with PowerPoint.
I know, yeah. No, I find this to me is one of like, if you've ever shared an Excel spreadsheet and had to sit on the far side and watch someone click around and be like, no, down one, down, no, down, left,
Mhm.
left, right. It allows multiple people simultaneously. So it is that, it's not earth shattering, right? But it's the idea that native in Teams, you don't have to go find the file, all this stuff. You just pick the file and everyone has access to edit it at the same time. It is an amazing feature. So simple, but pretty dang cool to be able to do.
One of the other big things here is that it does work on mobile as well.
Yeah.
So, you're not in a limited experience of mobile just because you're on a mobile device or an Android tablet or something. You can use that on all devices for Teams.
Correct.
Well,
Yep.
not all devices, but all, I guess your Teams phone mobile and your Teams desktop clients.
Yes, absolutely. Annotations. So this is the old Skype for Business feature, right? You used to be able to like do shared annotations inside of a meeting, same concept, right? So as I'm sharing a document, I can bring up the annotations and we can go ahead and annotate along the way so that everyone in the room can see that. There's a cute little video if you hit play, Eric.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. So, but the idea is whoever's in there can go ahead and they can click around, they can drop video or drop different comments, right? And it's that kind of shared experience for everyone. So this is one of those parody features, as I like to call, right? Like we were parody with Skype for Business 3 years ago, but now we're really starting to have parody because we're actually bringing the features back. So for those who've been asking for it, this is coming and it's great.
I love how when back when they announced, we have feature parity with Skype for Business Online, we're like, nope.
It was parody. It was a air quotes parody.
Yeah. It's enough to put a checkbox in an RFP, I guess, somewhere, right?
Yep. All right. Next one is this is the Cameo and PowerPoint live. I think there's a video on this one too, if I remember correctly. Yep. So this is the idea is, you see that it's the old newscaster view, right? Like, so it overlays your video on top. And the great thing about this is before you're kind of limited to the single corner, you really couldn't resize it. Now you've got even more features to be able to resize the person to make sure that they fit the right content. You do have to make sure that your PowerPoint, right, is built for it. You don't want to just have your big head over all the actual words and whatnot. So you've got to do some pre-planning on the front end. But when you do that, it does some pretty cool stuff. So I'm a big fan of this one as well. Just kind of how it lays out. It gives a really good experience, and it's one less reason if you're using like OBS or any of those kind of software to like do overlays. It kind of gets rid of that need, which is fantastic.
I also do want to mention that, like in this video, she's kind of taking up the entire PowerPoint presentation. You do have the ability to resize how large you are. So you can make it so smaller, larger, etc. on the fly too.
Together mode. So what you're seeing here is this is kind of the next iteration, right? People have been asking to be able to assign people to seats and start the together mode together, right? Think of that virtual classroom environment. A lot of power there to be able to like assign people to specific seats, see where people are, interact with them, all those kind of fun things. So it's just kind of the natural evolution of together mode.
Yep, and typically before it would just pick a random spot and throw you there.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
It wouldn't be anything you could control.
So. Polls. This is again one of those parody moments, right? So from the meeting, you have the ability to create polls. I was just noticing I have that live in my client now. How cool is that? So it keeps, as things go on, instant poll. I don't know if I actually turned it on or not. I don't know. Or maybe these were from before. Not sure. So but the idea, right, is from the meeting experience, right? You're gonna click polls at the top, and you can put in those kind of that instant poll kind of reaction for what's happening in the room.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah. So let's talk about a really exciting opportunity for some really cool features in the future. So the next slide kind of describes it. We'll jump into that one, and then we can kind of share. So Microsoft announced that there is going to be a new SKU. This is an add-on SKU. So the first question everyone asks is, do I get this as part of my E3 or E5? The answer is no. This is something that you need to purchase on addition or in addition to one of those SKUs. And there's going to be a series of new features that when they roll out, they might start in public preview, but those features will end up going then into this Teams premium licensing. So it's a premium feature. The idea is all these features aren't things that like every user in your organization needs. So like, are you really going to spend $10 per user per month on every single user for every single one of these features? You know, probably not. But the idea is that there are these premium features for those power users that you're going to be able to want to give more power to.
It isn't also in a way the next evolution of advanced communications licensing. It's the kind of the replacement for it.
Yeah. Sorry, someone said they couldn't see the screen share.
Can you guys still see the screen share?
I can see it, so I'm assuming it's good. Sometimes it's the old drop and rejoin moment. Sometimes. So yeah. Okay, good. People can see it. Sweet. All right. So premium. Yeah, they can. Yeah, we're good. Yeah. So definitely just drop and rejoin. So I always pause here just to see if anyone has any questions immediately before we jump into like some of the features that are coming in Teams Premium, because usually this drives a question or two, but I hope I hit the big questions off the get-go. Not included in the E3, not included in the E5. It's an add-on. And they announced a price. It's $10 per user per month. That was kind of for a while, kind of an unknown. So if you got questions, throw them in the chat. So what do you get? I paid $10. What am I getting for this $10 a month kind of experience? So the first one is meeting guides. So this is one of those interests. So if you sat through the last session and talked about different types of meetings, right? What's really cool with this premium license is I can create specific meetings with like the right type of setup in terms of like topics and the audience and who can bypass the lobby and who can present and all those kind of fun things. So it lets you build kind of a predefined structure. So every month we do this large town hall meeting and we need to mute everyone, and these are the 3 presenters. You could create a meeting guide for that, so that as you can see in the screenshot there, as I go to create the meeting, I can choose one of these predefined options, and when the meeting goes out, it fits and has that templated kind of concept. So they call it meeting guides. I like to think of it as templates for meetings. Maybe it'll get renamed between now and then to templates for meetings, but that's where I see it as a really powerful tool. So again, going back to the question, do I license everyone for this? No, because if I was doing like a town hall example, there's probably like 4 people who schedule it. Those would be the 4 people who need that license. If you join the license or join the meeting, you don't need that license to be able to utilize it. So what else? Is there anything else I'm missing on this one, Eric? Okay. All right. Custom branding of meetings. So this one kind of just gives you some fancy options. So when you're making your meetings, you can customize things, lobby backgrounds, that kind of stuff.
And again, that's only needed for the person creating the meeting. So for example, if Richard created this meeting and he didn't have premium, I'm not going to see this custom branding. But if I create that meeting and Richard's joining, he will see that custom branding.
Correct.
So again, you don't need to license everybody.
Right.
Just potentially certain people.
Yeah, and the idea here again would be this is that scenario for, would I custom brand every meeting? Probably not. Like in my mind, again, I'm looking at like those large town hall, maybe it's a salesperson, right? Those kind of thing. Just random, those ad hoc internal meetings, probably not that important. So, all right. Advanced meeting protection. This one is pretty fancy. So from a security perspective, you can specify um, in terms of like safeguarding the meeting. So we can watermark. So here you can see, you could watermark all the content. So if someone tries to like screen capture, it's watermarked, those kind of things. You can control who can record, right? By default, basically anyone can record a meeting, right? And anyone can do like all sorts of funny things from it. So you have some protections from that side. And those are, sensitive discussions, those kind of things. So again, the idea, right, is whoever creates the meeting, right? So Dwayne asked the question, do all presenters need it or just the meeting creator? Again, it's just the meeting creator, right? It's really tied to that level. If you really wanted to get silly and fancy with this, right, like
License one account.
yeah, like you really could, right? Like, I mean, not that my job is here isn't to like, tell you how to bypass Microsoft licensing. That's probably the worst thing for me to do. But again, theoretically, could you? Yeah, right. Like, um, and that's not obviously the intent here, right? But it's just to make sure, because when this initial came out, I think everyone's gut reaction was, wow, that's a lot of money for a lot of people, right? And my discussions with everyone has been, hey, right? There's probably a good segment in your organization that you're never going to license, right? Factory floor workers, right? That kind of stuff. So I'm pretty excited about this advanced meeting protection one. This one's pretty cool in my mind. This is my favorite feature coming out of the whole thing, personally. So it's going to do 4 things, and each one of them is really darn cool. The first one is the AI generated tasks. So as the meeting's going on, it's basically like having a virtual assistant. And if I were to say something like, hey, Eric, can you reach out to Joe Bob and check on the parts of the ABC configurator, right? This thing's going to pop up and say, would you like to create a task and assign it to Eric to reach out to Joe Bob and do X, Y, and Z, right? So it's going to do that kind of AI intelligence to try to figure out what's happening in the call and assign people tasks from that action.
Yep.
Is it going to be perfect? No.
Is it gonna
Right?
be better than not having it? Yes.
Yes. Right. So I think and as this, goes on longer and longer, right, it'll get better and better inside the organizations. But like the demos I've seen of this have been pretty darn cool. So that's the first thing. The second feature is the auto-generated chapters. So you have meetings, right? And as the meeting goes on, the content changes, right? It switches to different speakers. Even in this example, right, we're all using the same meeting link for 5 different sessions or 4 different, I've lost track today, right? Number of sessions. The system will know that it's changing and will auto generate chapters inside of the recordings to make it easier to navigate between them, right? So, imagine how cool it is for, uh, you know, maybe Don doesn't need to stop and start meetings anymore. He can just sit back and, drink a margarita and it'll auto chapter for him, right? Imagine the future. So yeah, exactly. The meetings and the trainings, right? Really cool. The timeline markers, right? So important moments, it's going to pick up based on AI, right? Like very excited things. It's going to automatically mark those for you. And that last one, the transcript search, right? To be able to kind of take the transcript and kind of, give you suggestions for speakers and the tasks and all those kind of things. So to me, right, like the other ones were really cool and neato. This one to me is the one that I'm like, I can't wait to see this one in action. and use it on a day-to-day basis. I've seen it in action, but I want to use it on a day-to-day basis.
It's also kind of like that old feature we had in Stream before, where they would just transcribe the entire meeting and let you, when you replay that recording, you could see like the individual spots when people talked. It's kind of like the next generation of that functionality.
Exactly. So it's super interesting just to see where we take this kind of AI. So, all right. Next one. And Don, yep, Don mentions, right, it's the organizers. That's who's the key piece in all of this.
Just one organizer. So per meeting, just one organizer has to have.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Just make sure not to say, oh, all your organizers.
But if you have multiple meetings and you want the branding across all your organizers, they would all have to have Teams Premium.
Correct.
So that's the point is that if you want to have the same across the, a group of people, they would all have to have premium. They would all have to have that customized branding piece. So that's all part of that package.
Correct. Yeah. And I think the piece that's going to be interesting, right, as we go forward, and this is where third parties come in and try to help fill in this gap. And I'm just now thinking about the coolest report I'm about to write here in a couple of days, right? Like if you're to look at your organization, my guess is if I've got 100 people, it's probably the same 10 to 15 who are always scheduling meetings. The other, right, 85% are probably just consumers of the meetings. So to be able to come up with a really good report to be able to look at and say, who are the people who are my most often organizers might help in terms of licensing this type of thing. So,
or even think about, external marketing type scenarios.
Correct.
Where
you 100%.
Those branded, and it's not everybody, right? It could be a subset. It could be marketing. It could be, those events-driven people.
Correct. 100%. So, I'm just writing myself a note here to write a cool report for some customers right now as I think about this, because I think that's going to be important, right? Because I think a lot of organizations, that's going to be their first thing they ask is, how do I know which users should get this, right? So I think being able to look back at reports or some sort of information is going to be helpful, right? Patrick brings up the idea of financial institute, right? Exactly that, customer facing. You've got the legal requirements, right, around that, all very important stuff. All right. Did I leave anything else on that one? No. All right. Live translations. So this is, I'm gonna raise my hand and I will say I'm absolutely bummed by this one moving to premium, actually. So this is something that all the other features are net new. You haven't seen them. This one is one that's already out. It's technically in public preview. It has been for like a year, I think, or something like that. Really crazy.
Right. It's actually in this meeting right now.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So this one is, right, this isn't just live translate. This is the live translations to a different language, right? So I am speaking in English. I have the button to be able to change it on the fly so that you could read it, the translation in French on the fly, right? So this is the one item that's kind of moving from a very public preview that everyone might have used it already, and it's going to fall behind that Teams Premium license in the future. So another one of those good ones, like, how often is it getting used in your organization, right? I think it's going to be important to kind of understand, because this is going to be one of those that's kind of feels almost like a removal of a feature to some people.
Yep.
What's the next one? Next. Advanced whiteboards or webinars. Wow.
Yeah, sorry, wait. I skipped mine. Yeah, it skipped ahead. PowerPoint locked up.
There we go. All right. Sorry. Virtual appointments. So you've got the ability to do virtual appointments today. So this is an advanced feature of it, right? Custom waiting rooms, departments, SMS reminders, right? Mobile joins, those kind of things. So this is really more like, I think, from the medical perspective. Maybe there's some other use cases that I'm not thinking of right off the top of my head. Where else have I seen this used in the bookings app? HR applications is another good one, right? For doing interviews.
Any external customer you have to meet,
Yeah, you could do it. Yep, exactly. Via bookings, that kind of stuff. I'm trying to think. You think of any other good ones, Eric? The vast majority I've seen has been medical,
But it's
right? Like
medical.
that's the natural place this goes to. But the
Like
idea
that
here
one.
is
Maybe like a professor type thing, like virtual office hours, maybe
Mhm.
court
like the college.
depositions.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah,
School
school
board, parent,
board.
teacher.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
exactly. Yeah, that's a good one.
Primarily
Right, parent-
medical.
Yeah, but parent teacher meetings, another great example. I've never thought about that one from the EDU space, right? So a lot of good places. But so this takes that bookings kind of virtual appointment piece and kind of brings it to the next level. That's what's happening here. So a lot of good stuff. Advanced webinars, not whiteboards. Cannot read today or talk or whatnot.
Making your whiteboard touchscreen now.
It's been a long day. So registration wait list, approvals, right? The reminder emails, the virtual green rooms. Like if you were in the session before this, they talked all about the, idea of different types of meetings, those kind of things. So again, this is just fancy. This is fancy features on top of what you had there, right? So to me, the virtual green room is a really nice one, right? It just kind of gives you some more of that feature functionality that comes from that. So I have personally not touched this one in real life. I don't think I've seen a demo of this one yet in the reals worlds yet. I don't think I have. So but again, I'm excited by what is coming on this one. All right.
Kind of the future ad that's really the best part about Teams Premium, because Teams Premium was designed to launch with a certain feature set today. That's just the beginning. That
Right.
is that new things will be added to it. It's not just that this is all that's ever going to be in it. No, it's going to be something that continues growing.
Right. And I think the other question that people ask is, does this mean every new feature of Teams is going to come to Teams Premium? Right. I've had that asked a bunch. And I think the answer, like, I'm not Microsoft. I don't make product decisions for them. But I think the answer, right, based on what they've told us and shared the need for this license is a no, right? If the license or the feature is something that's, across the board kind of beneficial, right? I think you'll see it hit the main product. If it's a more one-off kind of feature set, then you're going to see it fall under Teams Premium. That's my guess of how that's going to come down. But I'm sure there's like a room of really smart people at Microsoft making decisions on what features go, where, when, how, who, all those kind of fun things. Whew. All right. Any questions? Any other questions on Premium before we walk away from that subject? So everything you just saw, all of those were Teams Premium features. It's a long list. So, and if you'd ever looked at that old advanced, like Eric mentioned, the old advanced communications.
Advanced communications license, yeah.
Yeah. I can't even remember the name of it. It was so
nobody used
unpopular. Right. It was so unpopular that no one used it. So it's a unlike that license that had such a niche kind of thing. This one actually goes a lot wider. It's super more interesting. All right,
on to the fun topics. Other licensing changes.
More licensing.
Richard, a little bit of a break.
Yes, it's all you.
So the first one, Team Shared Device Licensing. So this is the old Common Area Phone license, rebranded. But also kind of features and what it does is tweaked. So this is going to be rebranded. If you have a Common Area Phone license today, this is automatically going to transfer over and be assigned to all your Common Area phones that you have in your environment today. That includes your auto tenant call queue support, voicemail, your basic call controls, things like that. That is all going to be continued to be covered by the new license category. However, it adds additional functionality for use with Teams displays, Teams panels, and SIP gateway devices. So the Teams displays, that is going to be more for like your small huddle space, maybe even just potentially like something like something that you're using what's the feature? Hot desking. Can't think of it for a second. If you're using like hot desking in a conference room where you want somebody to be able to quickly sign in on a devices themselves and be able to join their meetings, that's where you're going to be putting this Team Shared Device license without having to pay for an entire meeting room license. Because again, when we get there about the meeting rooms device license changes on the next slide, that's when things are going to be really changing. And $8 versus the new pricing model there is going to be a lot cheaper. Also for panels, again, for those huddle rooms that you don't need an entire Teams meeting room, it's going to allow those devices to work. The third one is kind of the new special one, and that's around the SIP gateway devices. So SIP gateway devices, today, as we're talking, you can use your common area phones, your Teams native common area phones with that Teams shared device license. But what's happening also is we're seeing a expansion of the SIP gateway devices, and we're just going to talk about that later on as well. And because of that expansion, Microsoft is recommending the shared device license because it's not necessarily a user, it's more like a common area phone type scenario where it's being used in those scenarios. At least that's if it's not assigned to a specific user, but we'll talk about that later on in the presentation. Now the slide that we're going to spend a lot of time on, Teams Rooms Basic and Pro. So sure, a lot of you guys have heard this. The previous two license structure for Teams meeting rooms was Teams Room Standard and Teams Rooms Premium. Teams Room Standard was kind of the de facto go-to, $15 a room a month. We had all the features enabled, you're good to go. Teams Rooms Premium was standard, but it added a third-party this first-party management service from Microsoft, so they would open tickets on your behalf. They would do these things, and it added what they call the Pro Management Portal. I think it was like the Premium Management Portal at the time, but it's rebranded now as a Pro Management Portal. Whatever, rebranding everywhere.
Yeah.
And that allowed you to actually get a little bit more insight into your Teams rooms on Windows, be able to control update rings in those devices, and that would give you more granular control than what was available inside the Teams admin standard. So the old licensing is out the door. If you have existing contracts from Microsoft, those will continue for up to 1 year. But you're going to see a lot of warnings all over the Teams rooms on Windows, inside the Teams rooms on Android, saying, hey, you're using an unsupported license, even though it's still technically supported. So the new licensing, we have two tiers. We have Basic, which is free for up to 25 rooms, and we have Pro, which is $40. There is no more first-party management service. There is nothing else. You have the Basic and Pro. Basic, which is free, includes pretty much enough to be able to join a meeting, and that's about it. There's certain little things it has additionally to that, without going to like a whole feature chart hierarchy or anything. But it's really for somebody that just needs a basic feature of a Teams room to sign in, you would have the ability to use that basic license. The Pro license is one of the ones that people are primarily 95% of the time going to be using, if not even higher. And so what happens? Premium and standard of the old licensing model were pretty much combined. They took away that first-party management service. They took that management portal, they bundled it. So now if you have a Teams Rooms device today, you can use the Pro Management Portal with that new Pro license. Right now today, that Pro Management Portal only supports Teams Rooms on Windows, but Service Hub and Teams Rooms on Android will be joining that portal in the near future. So that feature is coming into the future. Basic, again, not really useful, very limited feature set, but if you need just a basic device to be able to join in meetings, that is an option for you up to 25 rooms. Now, the old standard licenses will continue to work for up to 1 year for all your rooms, but they will not get any new features. So if Microsoft releases, oh, we've now got, I'm going to make a feature, Whiteboards V2 for Teams rooms. I'm picking something. That will never pop up if you are licensed with Teams Rooms Standard. You have to have the current generation Teams Rooms Pro licensing. Sorry, if you don't have Standard or the old Premium, sorry, throw that in there. That will not work anymore unless you have the new Pro license. So it's kind of a way that they're getting people to jump and go from $15 a month a room to $40 a month a room. Which is a little bit unfortunate from a cost per room scale, because you're almost tripling the cost of each room if you're using the standard licensing previously. But it is something to consider that Microsoft has not increased the cost of their rooms since the inception really of Teams rooms. So they've been adding a lot of features, and so there's kind of a debate for both sides that you can look at from Microsoft's perspective and also from the end user's perspective. The other big note that I want to mention is that if you are using Teams Rooms today, so Teams Rooms on Windows, Teams Rooms on Android, and you are signing into those rooms with a account that is licensed as an E3, E5, F1, F3, whatever license that you are using that is not Teams Rooms Basic, Teams Rooms Pro, Teams Rooms Standard, Teams Rooms Premium, if you have any of those 4 license types, you are quote unquote in violation of the terms of services of those licenses, because the Teams meeting rooms are not a end user device, they are a shared device. And now Microsoft in the past, they haven't cared. You know, today that room is still going to work as I'm talking to you right now. The thing is, though, you're going to see alerts everywhere. And beginning in July of next year, they are going to be preventing those rooms from signing in if your account does not have that Teams Rooms Basic or Teams Rooms Pro license assigned to it. So you have a year, but if you have one of the most common use cases and where I have seen this done is either A, in a lab environment, but also B, C-level executives. They like having a Teams Rooms on Android or some type of shared device in their office that's signed in as themselves. They're going to have to get a meeting room license and set that device up as a meeting room and have to forward those meetings. There will not be support for you to be signed in on those meeting rooms going forward. So that is a big one right there.
Exactly. And the question that people ask all the time, I've been asked this probably 30 times already, but Eric, I have 35 meeting rooms today. Can I get 35 basic licenses instead of 25? No. Right. It is a cap at the tenant level. Right. So if you are over that 25 room, right, and you just want to roll with basic, you will need to purchase those other licenses inside of the pro license for the other 10 at a bare minimum. Now, there's a lot of things that come in that. I was trying to find my little chart. I got a cute chart. The basic versus pro. Because there are a couple of really, I think, helpful things in there that I wanted to call out again. And I had this open and then my browser crashed and then I lost everything. Some days. So all the cool stuff.
I try to make this one quick slide of just a brief summary of just like without going into depth of the features. Like here's a quick summary.
Yeah, I don't want to go super in deep, but the ones that the one item I wanted to point out is, right, if you want Intune support, right, you're using Intune to manage that device for any reason, right, that requires a pro license. So that's probably the biggest one. And then anything that's gonna kind of play with the P1 license, that also requires a pro license. So
conditional access.
Exactly, right. Any of those kind of things, right, that you associate with a P1, if you plan on applying that at the room level, you need that. But the basic standard room, right, you get the whiteboard, you get audio conferencing, you get Teams. And I guess the other one I do want to mention, not that I see it used all that often, but if you've got a room that's heavily used for like a dial pad and people like come in and make telephone calls from it all the time, that also requires a P1 license. Or I'm sorry, the pro license. Yeah, the pro license, right? So so those are the big ones.
Not in basic.
Correct.
The other one that's not in basic is if your meeting room has dual displays in the front of the room, basic only supports one room.
Correct. Yeah.
And actually might be worth throwing that link to the docs page in chat.
Yep.
So you guys can see like a whole feature or hierarchy as well.
Yeah. Patrick asked the question, can I use basic and then tack on the Intune and the P1 license? I've seen nothing that says that you can't.
I've not seen anything you can't, but I believe Microsoft and what we were told was that that's quote unquote unsupported.
Yeah, I don't. I mean,
we did do some tests. We did do some testing where we took like a basic license.
Yeah.
Where we took a basic license and we added like the enterprise voice, the phone system licensing and stuff, and the phone features did not appear. So it was pretty much saying, hey, you're a basic license. It's still not going to give you that.
Right. And part of it's tough to test also because not everything's being enforced right now too, like the old back, like if I apply a user or not. So some of it I think we're gonna shake out as this goes on. Plus, I mean, there is, 7 months until this, starts getting enforced. So, that could get kicked down the road because, that has never happened previously about any announcement to say, nah, we'll just wait a little bit.
I just need to mention
Yeah, exactly. We might kick that can down the road a little bit. Who knows?
Or
But
exchange online basic auth.
yeah, exactly. So, but the concept is pretty straightforward, right? Like, and I get what they're trying to do, right? Like, there are a bunch of people, to Eric's point, right? They just buy user licenses and they kind of like skirt around corners and stuff like that. It's really not designed for that. So, just trying to put some guardrails there. All right, devices. All right.
So Surface Headphones 2 Plus. So previously, dating back to the Link days, Skype for Business, etc., for a headset, a wireless headset to be certified for use with Teams, it had to have a USB dongle. That was part of the base certification. So if anything was Bluetooth direct to the built-in Bluetooth adapter in your PC, it was not supported. Nowadays, we are moving into an era where we have native support for native Bluetooth devices, and one of the first devices that have that is the Surface Headphones 2 Plus. Not the Surface Headphones 2, Surface Headphones 2 Plus. And really, they're both the exact same headset. The difference is one was sold for business customers, one was sold for consumers. Not sure if they're going to ever expand that to just the 2s in the future, but as far as right now, it stands, the certification stands for the Surface Headphones 2 Plus. It does require a firmware update on the headphones itself. It could only be done on Windows 11 via the Surface app on Windows. That does not exist yet on Windows 10, but they will be bringing that in the future. The other one that may or may not have caused an earthquake in the market, Cisco. Cisco meeting rooms are now supporting native Teams rooms. And this is not your meeting room that is, doing like direct guest join in a way to a Teams meeting. No. This is a Cisco device running the Teams rooms application. Like, what in the world type of industry are we in right now? Like, this is definitely a new era of devices, because typically it's always been Microsoft and Cisco just going, at each other, and we're starting to see device partners. Cisco now, support Microsoft native Teams meetings, and interesting.
Unless I saw some, they did not specify any specific devices, right, that are supported or anything like that. Right. I think they haven't said like this version is supported, this isn't, can be flashed upgrade or anything like that. So like all that's very TBD. But the idea is that some devices will support it. We don't know what ones.
Then the next one, we keep going back to our Link days, the Link Skype for Business. And I keep mentioning that because, we're going back, this year they couldn't be certified before, now it's certified. Well, now we're taking a step back and we're bringing back pretty much the round table in a way. And so these are center of the room intelligent cameras for meetings. So the idea was that everybody at the table, say in 4 corners, can all look at each other through the center of the table. And then that way, the 360-degree camera in the center is picking up each individual person and sending out as an individual video feed for the meeting room. Pretty much we had that with Link.
I think that the hope is, right, the difference being, right, if this was an old round table, right, and I was using a round table where I am right now, my video would actually have been like this, right? So it was never a good experience by any stretch of the imagination. Everyone always felt very, although it was cool and you saw the like thing down across the bottom of the room, like it just, you had that kind of weird fisheye kind of experience, right? That was just really hard and jarring at times. So
the big idea here is that you're getting individual video feeds of each individual person.
Correct. Yes, exactly.
We're not doing one long strand. We're doing individual feeds.
Right. We're not stitching like we were before. So definitely a different experience. And then
the next one, Signature Teams rooms. So this was it was originally like I think it was called Front Row, like meeting rooms last year. Originally presented as Front Row meeting rooms, but now the Front Row view is available for your meeting room, no matter the room layout or whatever. That is available in your Teams rooms on Windows. I know for sure on Windows, I'm not sure on Android. But now Microsoft is branding signature Teams rooms or rooms that are designed to be engaged, more inclusive for all participants. And so no matter where you're at the table, you're still looking forward. People are still engaged. And it's kind of like the old like Cisco telepresence in a way where,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
like,
Wowzers.
yeah, I'm going really far back now.
Oh. Use the raise hand feature. Someone at your company spent $180,000 on a Cisco telepresence room.
These are not $180,000, but you could maybe get it there.
Oh my goodness. I remember. Oh my God. I remember a customer did it. It was so bad. It sat empty like 24/7. It was wow. Okay,
Yep.
never mind. Sorry, I'm back. Sorry, PTSD there for a moment.
The nice thing about these is it's not just Teams meeting room. If you look here to the right, they've got an 85-inch Service Hub integrated. You know, that's integrating with your Teams rooms on Windows. So it's all joined in the meeting. So you have your whiteboard to the right. You could have, you know, dual projection screens in the front, and it's more or less designed to make it feel like remote participants and in-person participants are all together in one room.
And I mean, I guess the question that someone's going to ask, right? They're probably wondering is like, am I going to Amazon and am I buying this as a SKU? Is this like a suggested layout for a room? Like, how does this really, how does this actually play out in the grand scheme of things? So that was my question to you. I was presenting to you to answer. Sorry, we didn't do that in the demo.
Appreciate that. So the signature Teams rooms are designed to be a kind of like in a way like a SKU in a way, not a like one size SKU fits all, but a SKU that can have different pieces and parts added to it that Microsoft is signing off and saying that is a signature Teams room. So it's not just, you know, here's our only room SKU, here's the only device vendor. You know, there's going to be different kind of pick and place, and it builds a SKU pretty much for you with all the different components they certify for this.
Yep, exactly. So it's kind of a weird combo platter.
Yep.
All right.
Teleframe. So
this is cool. So someone had just asked, sorry, who asked? Alexander, can I assign names to it? So so we're back to that, you know, fancy camera in a moment. So we're taking that camera and splitting it off. So in this video, you can see at the bottom, you kind of see the larger, it goes really too fast, unfortunately. At the bottom, you see the whole four for the conference room, but then it breaks them up into 4 pieces and it puts the person's name around them, which I believe is being done via the device that's next to it. That part I have not seen, like how they magically know that that's Serena Davis. I've not seen an explanation for that one. Maybe someone from Microsoft knows the magic that's happening there, but I didn't see that explanation ever. Creepy Big Brothers just knows everyone and where they're sitting at all times. But the idea is that, you know, instead of just being, again, stuck in that big huge frame, right, we're gonna use the intelligence of the room. And it's worth noting that some providers like Logi and Jabra have some of this stuff built into their cameras already. So this isn't a camera specific thing. This is happening at the server side, right? So this is at the conferencing MCU perspective. So it'll be interesting to see how those two kind of mesh and play with each other in the real world. But the idea that is to take that big thing and kind of zoom in on individual participants so that when you're in a conference, it feels like all 4 of them are there, which is what I do find interesting. And I was worried about this. And in this video, they actually show a good example of this. If you see Corey Gray's head is pointed away from the camera. The camera has picked up where Corey is, but because Corey is like not facing the camera, you get the back of their head the entire time. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in that scenario. You know, I don't know if you got a large, you know, statue of Chewbacca in the back of your room. Does something weird happen? That kind of stuff.
That'd be hilarious. Chewbacca is now joining your meeting.
I'm just saying, like, I don't know. All right, so that's the IntelliFrame. So that one's pretty interesting. Good stuff there. All right, calling.
Questions. Before we get into calling, any questions so far?
Ding-a-ling-a-ling, calling. Oh, sorry.
All right. So calling, first one, big one, very big one, Teams Phone Mobile.
Yeah, so go for it.
You go for it. You go for it.
No. All right. So what was the name of the old product? I've already forgotten.
Operator Connect Mobile.
Operator Connect Mobile, terrible name. So thankfully, they got rid of Operator Connect Mobile. See, I just purged it from my memory so quickly. Teams Phone Mobile. So the idea here is that we're integrating a single number to a mobile device. And you're like, hey, I already have a phone number. I have my work number and it calls me on Teams. That's not what's happening here, right? What's happening here is that I have a single number. That number is like owned by Verizon and is assigned to my cell phone right here. And when the call comes in, it rings Teams, either Teams on my cell phone or Teams on my desktop, right? So for businesses, think of it like, in my mind, it is the sales people, right, who've always had like a Teams number and also a mobile number, right, to be able to get rid of that disconnect and have a true singular number for a person is going to be really cool. So you get that power of the native dialer, and there's some really neat things. So when I've seen the demos of this, like when the call comes in, can I answer it with the native dialer on the phone? Yes, and that call still shows up in like your team CDR. So there's some really interesting magic happening at the carrier level, and that's the key piece here, right? This is a very Microsoft plus carrier plus Teams experience. We didn't put who the carriers are. There's only like two. None of them are in the US yet, right? If I remember correctly, like one's in Sweden, one's in Canada.
I think Verizon's going to be one of the first in the US.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It's not there yet, but I believe it will be eventually.
Right. I think that's the name I saw on the list. So, but the idea again, right? Like single device, a true single device that's used across my organization. So, yeah, I'm super excited by this because I'm just going to be fascinated to see how this plays out.
Yep.
All right.
Wonder if I'm fascinated by it, but I'm also wondering, in 3 or 4 years, is it going to be something that's forgotten about?
Right. Yeah. I mean,
you never know.
We'll see.
Next one, CRM integration. So this is more of like an advanced calling scenario. This allows you to do like an auto, like click to dial type of thing from your CRM. So in this case, Salesforce on the right, and it pretty much lets you go ahead and either message certain groups on with a click of a button. It allows you to launch calls. The calling one I think has kind of been there, but that's been more or less specific on your PC. What you have is like the default for the telcolon protocol in a way.
Right.
But you can also do this via URL file path, other things. So this is kind of a cool new thing. Some customers have that requirement.
This is the old, if you used Skype Pop, which a lot of people did, right? So if you're going to take a step back in the Wayback Machine about Link and Skype, but you had Link Pop and Skype Pop, right? This is what this is, right? Call comes in, I automatically want Dynamics web page to open up to the customer with this URL, and literally you just put the URL and the telephone number as a variable, and it just opens it up, which is great because it's not tied to a specific service then. Like if you've got some custom thing built internal, as long as you can pass a telephone number to it, you're golden. You can look it up. So, and it's all native, and it just works, which I'm a huge fan of. And someone's going to ask, does that work on the Mac? And I actually meant to look that up, and I don't remember. I'm going to go see if I can find it real quick. I don't remember if that's a Windows only feature.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I didn't think they specified Windows or Mac on that.
I don't remember. All right.
Go
to the next thing.
Yep, I'll move on. So the next one, detailed. Wow, cannot talk today. Detailed call history. Hey, I'll bring advanced whiteboard back, Richard.
Yeah, exactly.
So detailed call history allows you to see kind of what happened to the call, who it came from in your call history in your Teams client. Today, like if you answer a call from just a standard Teams call queue, you're going to see that in your call history. You'll never know that was on behalf of that call queue. It just shows that call came into you. It won't show any of that in the history. And so now you'll be able to see that. Also, if somebody else forwards a call to you, you'll be able to see who forwarded that call to you. Very big one, because people like looking at like, hey, where the hell did this go? Excuse my language there. Where in the world did this call come from? And now they will be able to see that. Typically, some of those features and that functionality were available with the what was it? It's the voice-enabled channels with Teams. So it was only available with like certain forms of call queues and not all calls in your Teams client. This now applies to all calls, and you'll be able to see that inside your Teams client. Do you know if the ability to pick up the number to call for Teams contact natural?
I just replied. How's that for an answer? Is that a good non-answer? I think I just did a good non-answer.
That's a good non-answer.
Thank you. All right. Next.
Yep. This one. So this one's actually, I literally had a customer ask me 3 or 4 days ago. They're like, hey, what happens in the scenario when I'm in a meeting? Can I control what happens to calls on my Teams client? Today, no. Coming in Q1 2023, yes. So this is kind of a management of the end user management of busy on busy settings. And this lets, if you're in a meeting or another call, what happens to another call when it comes into your Teams client? You can have it let new calls ring me, play a busy signal, or redirect the call. And that redirect target could be another auto attendant, voicemail, user, delegate, whatever. And you'll be able to have that additional functionality. Now, one of the things that I do want to mention is that any of these call answering rules today in your Teams client, and even when they add these busy on busy options, are thrown out of the table when you have a call queue call come in. So these are completely ignored. So even if you're in a meeting and you're part of a call queue, even if you say, play a busy signal, that's not going to work. So it's going to completely ignore these calls. These are just for calls, Teams and PSTN calls to you as an end user. Okay. Next one. Cool. Yeah. Microsoft says performance updates on the Teams phones. I think if anybody here has used the Teams phone, that's going to be kind of a hit or miss depending on the model. Usually from the time you hit answer to the time that the call picks up, there's a little bit of a delay before even the UI even shows like you're even in a call. They're saying now it's instantaneous. I've not seen this new UI hit every single phone model yet, so it's in the stages of rolling out. But I guess we'll see what happens as time goes on, because Teams phones, as you know, are very notorious for being slow, and it's rather unfortunate.
Yeah, Dwayne, I have not seen that. I'll have to go back and look. Typically, I've seen the history of the people who have called, but maybe I haven't. Maybe I haven't been paying attention, close enough attention.
So it will not. So the way that it works is that it should not show the call and the call history. If, like, just say your queue timed out and it went to another destination, you'll never see that call. But if anybody in that queue answered that call, it should be showing the call history.
Should be able to see it. That's what I thought. Yeah.
If it's not, you need to open a support ticket on that.
Yeah.
Oh, you've been for them.
Oh, 14. Oh.
Here, beat me
all right.
to
So Dwayne, here's
send us a message and we'll bring it to the
Hold on. Yeah, exactly. There's my email. Please don't abuse it, people. Send me the ticket numbers, and I can, on the next MVP call, I'll say, are they still? Let me know if they're open still, and then I'll see if I can escalate.
Yep. Excellent.
The PG loves us. SIP gateway updates. This is, I think, one of the next few slides are the coolest things on the absolute planet. If you're not using SIP gateways, Eric has done plenty of blogs and videos and other things about SIP gateways and why you should be using it and why you shouldn't be using 3-pip anymore. It's going away anyways, so it's not like you have a choice. So the first one is these devices are now supported in the SIP gateway. These are all handheld, mobile, wireless, not wireless, but DEC devices that people have been asking for literally a decade.
Yep.
So think of the and some of these are like rugged kind of devices that you can have on the floor, in your warehouses, those kind of things. All Teams, right? I shouldn't say Teams native. They're SIP native devices, but they're going to natively connect to Teams via the SIP gateway, right? So they're going to be able to do the supported features inside of the SIP gateway, which is all critical and awesome.
Yep. And the other thing is I do want to mention, it's not the native Teams app. It's
right.
It's the vendor's own
SIP
code.
Yep.
Dialing in Teams, and it's just basic call control. It's nothing fancy. There's
Correct.
no one-touch meeting join, or it's just basic calls.
Yep. And the other thing that's important, I'll find the link for the SIP gateway list. Some devices on the SIP gateway do support like dynamic 911 and stuff like that. So depending on the SIP gateway you choose, you might get 911 support out of it as well. So all those kind of fun things.
The other big update for SIP Gateway is that we are now looking at analog media pack registration to Teams. So we've got supported models from audio codes, the MP112, 114, 118, and the 124s. No word on the 1228s, which are the big chassis ones. Hopefully, maybe one day would be great, but right now it's just your standard media packs up to 24 ports. Cisco ATA 191s, 192s, and the Poly OBI 300s and 302s will all be supported.
Yeah, like huge. No, I just say huge, right?
Yeah,
like all of the number one reason a lot of companies, not again, we can get into a direct routing conversation some other time if I have an extra 6 hours to describe direct routing versus calling plans versus operator connect and why you should choose what. But one of the drivers was always that analog support, right? And being able to do, native registration against the SIP gateway for these one-off devices, it's fantastic.
Couple things that I do want to mention here. Each port on the media pack is its own individual user. It requires the Teams share device license per port. You cannot take a media pack and use Richard Brynteson at whateverdomain.com. It has to be a quote unquote common area phone license. I'm sorry, Teams share. I'm going to say common area phone a lot. Teams share device license per port. So each port is going to be $8 a month.
You just took away my poll. I was going to ask people what that price was. Great, you ruined it. All right, keep going.
Okay, my bad. So depending on your analog requirement, that can grow big time. Now you also have to look at it from a cost-benefit scenario. Okay, and the reason why I mention this is that when customers look at direct routing and they're looking at that from an analog perspective, some customers I've seen, they literally deploy an SBC just for 12 analog ports, and they don't care about dialing out from that. They just need to be able to reach the people in Teams. That's all they care about. There's no trunks going into it, nothing. It's just an SBC sitting there. But that SBC, they have to worry about certificates on it, service changes for direct routing, things like that. They have to keep up to date on that device. Whereas kind of a media pack, once you deploy it, you forget about it unless there's a firmware update or something like that. There's no SSL cert requirements you have to worry about, things like that nature. So depending on your use case scenario, you have to look at it from a cost benefit scenario, depending on your use case. If you got like 4 media packs, just obviously do the registration to SIP gateway. There's no point in tying that to an SBC and dealing with the headings potentially from there. So that's going to be something good from there. The other big one is that there is going to be support for overhead paging devices. Now, you can use a media pack for overhead paging, but you can also now, in the future from Algo, have a paging system directly connect into Teams SIP Gateway. So, very big news, especially for those that have those analog requirements, warehouses, etc. Some management updates. So in Teams Admin Center, we now have the support for unassigned number treatments in the tag. This previously was only available to you via PowerShell. You now have the ability to create those rules, manage those rules, change the order of those rules, and put those in the Teams Admin Center via the GUI. That's actually quite nice to see. If you want to get that, it's under phone numbers and then routing rules across the top. Any recommendations for a doorbell intercom device?
I'm trying to think of my head. Yeah, as I say, I'd have to. Ryan, you've got my contacts. Send me. We've done a couple. Try me a message. I'll go look and see what we did, and then more importantly, pull the tickets for how successful it was.
Yep. Exactly. Other Teams Admin Center updates. We have mobility policies. This is a new one, and this is there for Teams Phone Mobile. So Richard was mentioning, well, what happens when I dial a call? Is it going to use Teams? Is it going to use the native dialer, or does the user have the control of that? You can either force one or the other, or you can also give that user that control. By default, there's a global policy. You can also create a per user or per group policy assignment for that.
Correct.
Last one, I'm gonna take a step and look at the Teams PowerShell. As of yesterday, we are at PowerShell 4.9.1, and we're gonna touch base on this first one. The first bullet point is probably the biggest one with regards to PowerShell in quite a while, is that we have application-based authentication in Teams PowerShell. So previously, before, if you're wanting to use Teams PowerShell, you had to pretty much do some form of user impersonation to connect to Teams. So either you're signing in as that user, or you're doing a graph and also Azure App Registration token in the background that's impersonating a user to be able to sign into Teams with a specified role assigned to them. This is no longer needed, and we'll kind of look at what that looks like on the next slide. We also have some other updates. I'm not going to go through every single one here, but they did fix, there was some issues with one of the recent PowerShell module releases where on-prem attributes would be returned like a get CS Online user. We have like on-prem line URI, on-prem option flags. It would come back and say not yet supported, which I thought was quite funny. They fixed all that. You're good to go. And then they've also added some extra attributes being brought out if you run just get CS Online user without the dash identity parameter. So now let's talk about this application-based authentication.
Changes everything.
Big time. And Richard, if you want to touch in at any point, go for it. Yep. Today, it does not yet support all commandlets. There is a docs article that goes into it, but it's a lot of the commandlets are like legacy, but not legacy. One of those is like get set CS Online application instance. That's your Teams resource accounts. That's not yet supported by this, but as they kind of build this in the back end, more and more stuff will be supported. Just kind of pay attention to the up-to-date docs page. So how does this work? So what happens is the Teams PowerShell module will get an app-based token using the application ID, tenant ID, and certificate thumbprint. The certificate thumbprint must be in your local certificate store, and and Richard knows this stuff a lot better than I do, so I'll let him.
It's just your standard certificate nonsense that your head will explode if it doesn't quite set up properly. That's pretty much all it boils down to. No, you do, yeah. As you've got to, it's got to be matching from the local machine and all that kind of fun stuff. But the key element here, right, is if you've tried to do like automation of PowerShell before, somewhere along the line you were like hard coding usernames and passwords and doing all this other nonsense that was really difficult. So to be able to kind of take that away and not have to worry about that anymore is good, because like legitimately the number of organizations that I saw that was doing automation and had an account for this role, like it was a Teams admin role and sometimes it was a global admin role, but you couldn't have MFA on it.
I was about to say no MFA.
No MFA. So then people are like running around like.
And I've even ran into 911 vendors that pull into like tenant info, wanting an account with no MFA. I'm like, you don't do that.
Yeah, it was a disaster.
The other great use case for this is that you can store this on like some organizations that have their IT help desk limited in what they can do. And you could pretty much put a PowerShell script out there like on a jump box for IT that maybe provisions users for Teams, or does something with stored credentials that isn't really a credential in a way. It's
And if you want, I threw it in the chat, and the article I had is still relevant insofar as like what I did, and you can steal some of it, right? But I was using Power Automate to go get the token and then go do stuff. Right. Yep. So like legitimately you could store your secrets, right? Because when you're doing something with an app setup, right, there's still that tenant's the secret, right? That is a password. That's what it is. And you don't want to hard code that password and say, like, it's no different than hard coding someone's password. So it does walk you through and like how to use Power Automate and connect to like Key Vault and store it inside a Key Vault and stuff like that. So just some cool options from that perspective.
Yep. With that being said, questions?
Questions?
Hang out, take camera off, hide, or turn your mic on, go for it.
Yep. Do that. We wanted 15 minutes at the end and we have 17. Timing. Questions, no questions? We put them all to sleep. Perfect. Don? Did we put Don to sleep? God, I hope not.
There's like,
He's
yeah,
unmuted.
let's end this meeting.
He's
get out of
unmuted.
here.
He's gone. He's history. Don's like, I'm out.
We'll see.
Oh, there you
Yeah.
are. Hi, Don.
My
Hi.
mic was just being funny again. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, please make sure you throw it in there. Looks like Patrick's still awake. He has got nothing because you guys did a good job talking through everything. There's a lot of stuff that came out. So going once, going twice, I think we're good.
Yeah.
All right. With that,
Yes.
gentlemen, thank you. Great job again. And to let you know, Patrick Fisher was our winner with the $25 gift card. So Patrick, make sure you throw your email address that you would like to have that sent to. That would be great. Oh, there is a question. Alexander threw in something at the last second.
Pro license for multi-camera rooms. I know for multi-display is a yes. Does multi-camera require a pro? Ooh.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Single cameras with basic.
Thank you. Perfect.
All right. Again, Patrick, if you can throw your email in there, that would be great. Thank you, gentlemen. And everybody, thank you for attending today. We appreciate your time and